One-way lighters are cheap, efficient. When they're empty, you throw them away. However, you can't do this with your knife. So if you want to find out how to sharpen your knife easily and effectively and cheaply, stay tuned. Blunt knives are dangerous. They don't cut, so you use more force and they're more liable to slip. And if they cut you, they're going to give you a raggy wound, which takes longer and is more difficult to heal than one clean wound produced by a sharp knife. So for a whole host of reasons, you need to keep your knife sharp. There are many ways to sharpen your knife. And the big problem is keeping the angle between the sharpening device and the blade constant. If you want to find out about looking after knives and getting them sharp, I recommend Felix Imler's channel. Felix will show you how to sharpen a knife easily and effectively. Similarly, the wedge sharpening device can be used to keep your blade at the right angle. The traditional method is to angle the blade to the sharpening device. But recently, Felix Imler has made a device where you keep the sharpening device at an angle and your blade horizontal. This is easier to use for sharpening and for stropping. I took up Felix Imler's idea of having the sharpener and the strop at an angle. I improvised an angled strop by using the strop that I'd made myself and the phone holder from IKEA. The angle was right, and after just a few minutes the sharpness of my knife had noticeably increased. I decided to make a similar device using hand tools and scraps and materials that I had anyway at home. My aim was to produce a variable angle holder for a stropping strap and a sharpening stone using salvaged materials and low levels of skill and equipment. The first job to be done was to cut a 2-inch strip from the old shelving. Unfortunately, the wood wasn't that good, and I cheated using a power saw instead of a hand saw. Once the strip was cut, I needed to put a stopper in place. At first, I used 2 screws. This proved to be less than efficient. To make an effective stopper, I used an old shelf support that had been reused before. I screwed it into place so it was 90 degrees to the edge of the 2-inch strip. Once the end stop was in position, I gauged how long the piece of wood would need to be. Part of the excess unwanted wood was cut to height to make a movable height adjuster, which would be kept in place with the clamp from an old table tennis net. To accurately position the movable height adjuster, I used a wedge. I placed the stropping strap against the old shelf support, put the wedge in underneath, put in the movable height adjuster and marked it. I did this for 20 degrees and for 13 degrees. Later, I checked this with the angle measuring app on my mobile phone. In both cases, it was perfect. Okay, using the mobile phone app was a bit of a cheat, but it was reassuring to find out that using the wedge and the movable height adjuster was accurate. Later, I turned the strop over and put on a sharpening stone. Again, this was measured and found to be easily adjusted to very close tolerances of accuracy. This system can also be used with the Victorinox sharpening device. For a very little work, very little skill, salvaged materials, I have a working, efficient, accurate way of sharpening and stropping my knives. With more skills and new materials, a much nicer looking device could be crafted. The sharpening device works, and it works well. However, for long-term use, I thought I'd make something more aesthetically pleasing. The job was easier with pre-cut wood. Making this device was probably faster than watching this video, apart from waiting for the paint to dry. If you can't angle the blade to the sharpener, angle the sharpener to the blade. You'll have a sharp knife when you're out there training. You know it makes sense and it will serve you well. So please like, comment and subscribe.